Okay, what's going on? Comic Correction. Comic Correction.
Legion fans,
Legion
my
fans.
man.
Wow, man.
What's going on?
I'm really off. I don't know.
Rough
what's going on with
start.
this.
Rough
It's a
start. Hot mic.
It's been a
Hot
rough
mic.
week. It's been a rough week. All right, what is going on, Legion fans? Welcome to another episode of the Comic.
Let me get this. Let me get it. I got it.
Do it.
Welcome, Legion fans. Welcome to a new episode of Comic Correction. Now, we have been in the Star Wars Correction saga.
That's right.
And we had to stop.
We did.
We had to take a break because Wonder Woman 1984 came out on Christmas Day.
Yes, it did.
And it was an absolute train wreck.
Well, new comic book movie. We got to jump into
a
new
new comic book movie. We got to do something about it. You know, if it is not living up to the standard that it needs to be, we're
That's
here.
right.
We're going to do something about it. We're going to say something.
And if it was good, we would want to jump in and be all excited about it.
Right, exactly.
We do appreciate good movies, but
There are good movies out there.
There are. So what do you? I mean, this one just dropped on Christmas Day. It dropped,
exactly.
Select theaters and HBO Max. What do you think
Yep.
of that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who are upset about HBO Max slates, the Warner Brothers slate getting dropped onto HBO Max. So, I mean, Denis Villeneuve, who we know is the director of Dune, which, man, Dune is
excited.
Has
That's
a special place in my heart.
Hopefully soon.
He is one of the most outspoken directors on this being a huge problem and really undercutting directors' purpose and it being something that they weren't brought into the discussion around. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first movie where this is happening, and it's a huge one.
Yeah.
But we want to right now just do our initial reaction to this without any spoilers. We're not going to say anything in terms of specific details about the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie, this is our immediate review without spoilers. But we're about to get into, after this, we're going to get into all of the different specifics about the movie that we felt were terrible.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll warn you when we're about to get into spoiler territory, but we just wanted to make sure that you at least got an honest Legion review, spoiler-free, about this new movie. Because this is really the first new comic book movie that we are going to be reviewing because of everything that's been going on with the pandemic, and so we haven't been able to see new stuff come out. So it was very exciting to have something new come out, and I didn't have the hugest expectations for it, but I was excited because this is new comic information. This is new comic content. We want this.
And this is a big one. And
it is. I like Wonder Woman.
I'm going to tell you.
Wonder Woman 1 was great.
I had high hopes for this movie.
Yeah.
And the reason, I mean, that was a little bit because of the fact that Wonder Woman is my wife's favorite superhero.
Yeah.
She loved Wonder Woman. I loved Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it was
the
a good
initial
movie.
one.
The first one was fun.
I thought it was great. It was fun. We could get into the fact that it was basically a shot-by-shot remake of
First Avenger,
Captain America, but
it was still fun. It was good.
It was still fun.
Gal
it was
Gadot crushed
still a
it.
good formula, and Gal Gadot crushed it. This did not. And, I mean, that is even my wife's reaction to this.
It crushed your hopes and dreams?
It crushed my hopes and dreams. You know, I don't know why
Yeah.
I continue to put myself through this from a DC lens and expect that DC is going to do something different.
Yeah.
I'm lost. I'm lost in this film. It takes us into places. It goes in directions that don't make any sense.
True.
I want to start with the fact that people built up Patty Jenkins, and I actually don't know why. Before Wonder Woman,
was it Monster?
Monster Woman was a huge film.
Monster Woman.
Monster Woman. That's not it. Well, I mean, kind of. It was a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Charlize Theron, right?
Charlize Theron, she crushed it. She won the Oscar for that.
Yeah.
Monster was a huge film, but between Monster and Wonder Woman, she didn't really do anything.
No.
She did a couple of episodes in different TV shows, and that was it.
Yeah.
And this is a situation where Zack Snyder is being viewed as the kingmaker over films and just giving his blessing to different directors to bring them in, and they don't have a reason to. This is, again, like Kevin Feige has done this exact same thing that Warner Brothers is allowing Zack Snyder to do without having a proof point for it.
What?
And Patty Jenkins did great with Wonder Woman, but it was a safe play, just like we said. And now we went off the deep end.
Yeah. There was it was full of kind of a sloppy script and storylines that weren't cohesive, and we saw a lot of like wasted characters, right? Like wasted character uses where we could have been something really great, and then they just kind of dropped the ball on some of these characters and what they could have done with it. We had Kingdom Come armor, which is really cool, so we were very excited for that. But again, seemed like kind of a wasted move. We'll talk about that more once we get into spoilers. But overall, it was letter grade. What would you give it?
Well, before I get into letter grade, I need to say this: Patty Jenkins did whatever she wanted with this movie.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
that's
you
the issue.
can't fault her for that. She tried.
She did whatever she wanted with this movie. She completely ignored backstories.
Yep.
She completely ignored source material.
Right.
There is no form of that. If you go into this movie and you are a fan of Cheetah or Max Lord, don't expect to see anything from the comics in this movie. It is not there.
Yeah.
Patty Jenkins did Patty Jenkins, which, had it been a good movie with a cohesive storyline and had it been something that was really fun and fast-paced the entire time, people probably could have ignored that. However, it didn't.
Yeah.
So now you're left in the same position that we are with a lot of DC films where backstory is ignored, characters are abused, and we get a clunky, disjointed movie that we didn't want.
Yeah.
And so if I'm giving this a letter grade,
let me hear it.
I'm giving this a D.
Oh, a D, okay.
I am giving this a D.
Right.
I know that there's some people out there that are going to say some different things about it, that there were positive pieces around exactly what you had said. Some of what was really fun about the Kingdom Come armor.
Yeah, there's good parts about every movie.
Kristen Wiig played the heck out of the role that she was given.
Yeah, she did a great job.
Even though it didn't make any sense, she played the heck out of it. Pedro Pascal
was great.
He is an actor we love. We just did the Mandalorian podcast, the Mando pod, and we love him.
Yeah, he's great.
But they played the heck out of being given what was just a terrible storyline and a terrible plot.
Yeah, agreed. If I were to give it a letter score, I'd be a little more generous. I'm gonna give it a C minus.
I'm not surprised. You're a little bit more
I'm
generous.
A little more optimistic in that.
A little more optimistic.
But it's still. Would I watch it again? Would you watch it again?
I would not watch it again.
Yeah,
no.
I wouldn't watch it again either.
This isn't one of those movies that you put on in the background that you're like while you're working.
You're right.
It is so disjointed and it infuriates me at so many different points that I just can't watch it. I at different points in watching this movie was like, no, they're not going to do that, are they?
They did it.
And then they did it.
They did all those things.
And it made me want to scream. It made my skin crawl.
I was hanging out with my wife, and I just kept getting texts from you while you were watching it saying, they did this. Why did they do that? Why they can't believe they're doing this?
And here's the worst part about that is the text started off kind of like just in normal sentences, and then it got to all caps, and then it got to like multiple exclamation marks. It just got worse and worse and worse. And the other part that Greg kept on telling me was, wait, it's going to get worse. Wait till the end. It's going to get worse. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that it was going to continually get worse, and it did.
It got
so,
worse.
like, there was no redeeming factor at the end. It just was bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that's our kind of snapshot review of what we thought about it. It's really tough to talk about this one in particular without giving into spoilers.
Right.
We don't want to mess anything up for anybody who hasn't seen it. It's only been out a couple of weeks. So if you have not seen it, get a hold of HBO Max or go to the theater if you want to go see it and check it out. I think it's worth seeing at least once because it's kind of fun. But
I don't know. I got to tell you, what this reminds me of is those movies where you're wondering, like, how could this be bad? So, like, you want to know one of the worst movies is Holmes and Watson with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
You used this parallel before.
If it's true, it's true.
If it's true,
you know, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Or a Will Ferrell movie.
But in this regard, you think to yourself, how could this be bad?
It was so
You've
bad.
got Kristen Wiig, you've got Pedro Pascal, Gal Gadot. Somehow we got Chris Pine back. Like, all of those things. You've got a Wonder Woman or an Amazonian Olympics in it. How could this be bad? and
Yeah.
it was bad. And
Well,
it wasn't just bad at the beginning. It wasn't just bad at parts. It just
bad
got
all the way
worse
through.
and worse and worse.
All right. Well, let's jump into, as always with our comic corrections, we're going to get into our Carnage report and then our discussion, spoiler-filled discussion of the film, followed by our verdict. This one's going to look a little bit differently, again, because it's new, but we're going to jump into our Carnage report first. So let's jump into it. All right, so for our Carnage report, we don't have as much as we normally do because it's not finished its run in the theaters. It's also a weird kind of situation here with COVID and having it be in some theaters, but also on HBO Max. And so finding those figures isn't as easy as it usually is. But its opening weekend, it did really well, as you might expect. Dropped on Christmas Day, had a lot of views. But the biggest thing that we want to make sure everybody's aware of is that by the second weekend, the money coming in for it had dropped 67%, which is the highest drop in any movie after Christmas that comes out on Christmas Day. So any Christmas Day movie release, 67% was almost double to any other on record we have for movies dropping in the box office. So maybe that's because of COVID. Maybe it's because HBO Max is kind of expensive, or maybe it's because the movie flopped.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's because word got out.
Yeah, probably.
Word got out that this was not the movie that we thought it would be. This is not the movie of the trailers.
Yeah.
This is not what people were playing it up. This
Yeah,
is
the
not
early
what,
reviews.
what
Yeah.
WB was heralding it as.
Yeah, true.
And
Yeah.
Even DC Fandom made it
Oh,
seem
they played it
like
up, of course.
a great movie. If we remember, like, they got a huge spot just to play Werewolf. Like, they got a
Yeah,
huge
that's
spot
right,
that
that's right,
day
that,
to
like,
play
Mafia
a
game.
game. And then this is why, because they didn't want to release that much of it because it really wasn't that great.
Yeah, and when it comes to like we'll get into that when we get to the review. So the cast, again, great cast. We talked before.
Yes,
Gal
love the
Gadot
cast.
comes back. Love her as Wonder Woman. She kills it. Even in this movie, even though her writing maybe wasn't the best in some of it, she's still great. Love watching her as Wonder Woman. Kristen Wiig as Cheetah, and again, great. She did a great job with what she was given. A lot of fun, a lot of energy involved in the role. Chris Pine came back as Steve Trevor, which we'll talk about how and why. And
Terrible idea.
I don't know how much money they offered him, but hey, here he is. Pedro Pascal came in as Maxwell Lord. They got him to come in as kind of the main villain of the movie. He did a great job. He's Pedro Pascal. I feel like you give him any kind of dialogue and he runs with it. He's great. Robin Wright returned as the general from the Amazonians. So really great cast, really fun cast. They were on point. DC's usually on point.
This
though, with
is
cast.
always
They're usually
this
on
is
point.
the standard
This is
DC
nothing new.
movie problem.
Yeah.
We got the names, we got the actors and actresses.
Yeah.
We gave them a terrible script, and they tried so hard.
They did.
And it just didn't work.
Yeah, and just to wrap up Carnage Report before we jump into the actual discussion of the movie, and when it comes to source material, there's really no direct source material other than
Zero source material for this.
or like we've got like Maxwell Lord's backstory, which again Logan's going to talk about a little bit when we get into the review, and we've got the same names. So we've got a lot of the names from the comics that we wanted to see, but as we've seen in other DC films, the name's kind of where it ends. You get the name, and then everything else is just kind of built around the story.
I would actually say this is worse than
Yeah, you
most
think it's
DC
worse?
films
Yeah.
when it comes to source material.
It is really off.
You know, I'm the one who digs into DC a ton.
Yeah.
And the reality here is we see some attempt from the New 52, and
Yeah.
that is it.
Right.
That is where the line is drawn. There is no singular comic we can point to.
Yeah.
There is no comic run we can point to.
Right. It's just generic. It's just, well, Wonder Woman has fought Cheetah in the past, and so
Right.
Wonder Woman will fight Cheetah, and Wonder
Right.
Woman has, interacted with Max Lord in the past, so they'll do that too.
That is it.
But that's pretty much it. They're
Yeah,
not
so
pulling from a storyline
Source
specifically from the books.
material wise,
Yeah.
this is the worst I think I've seen in a long time. I
Yeah.
can't point to anything.
All right, let's jump into it. So,
Yeah.
From here on, spoilers,
They're
spoilers.
definitely coming spoilers, and
We're going to talk all about it.
When we did spoilers
Yeah.
with The Mandalorian, we would
did.
always be like, Go see the movie.
Yeah, don't go see it. You can just listen to the spoilers.
Don't see it. Just listen through here. You know, we're gonna walk through a big parts of the movie, and that may save you from actually having to have to watch it.
It's true, but you know what? We know that you're out there, those diehard DC fans,
Right,
like we
right.
are, and we know that you. Some of you, I mean, like for me, I gotta see it. Even if it's gonna be bad,
Yeah.
and not just because I do this podcast with you, but even if it's gonna be bad, I gotta see it.
Well,
I
the
have
other
to
thing
see it
is
at
when
least
people
once.
tell me this, I also am like, it can't be that bad.
Right, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and
that's
I
right.
I've got to see this.
Well,
I still watched Holmes and Watson.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't.
No, I don't blame you. Don't.
I won't go see it. But that being said, if you haven't seen it, go see it if you want to, and then come on back and listen to our spoiler section
right.
as we dive into our actual comic correction.
Great. So what I want to dig into here to start, and
Yeah.
I'm jumping in before you even ask me a question.
No, I know you've got what you need to talk about.
These characters are a joke. They
Yeah.
are just the start and stop of source material is with their name. That is
Yep.
it. Maxwell Lord
And kind of their looks.
and kind of
Their looks are pretty
So
good.
their looks
They're pretty
are
on
pretty good.
point. Yeah.
I mean, like Kristen Wiig, we were worried. We were worried if you go back a while and you listen to some of our old comic news stuff.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
were worried Kristen Wiig's Cheetah was going to look like a cat's
Yeah.
version.
She did.
And she did.
She looked she looked just as
looked
bad.
Just as bad,
Yeah.
if not worse, than what we got in the Cats movie, which I didn't even see. I saw trailers of. But, I mean, I'm telling you, they used the exact same technology.
With bigger fangs.
With
like
bigger
she had bigger fangs.
She had bigger fangs, but, I
They
mean,
should have given her the hair. You
they-
know, the cheetah version with
something
like the
more.
red hair. Like when
you
got
said
hair.
she looked like David Bowie, and I agree
She
with you.
did.
She looked
Yeah.
exactly like
She
David
did.
Bowie.
David Bowie would wear that outfit.
So here's the thing. Let's
Yeah.
dig into this
All
a
right.
little bit. Cheetah. First off, Cheetah is one of the main villains for Wonder Woman, but she is still a C-list villain.
Yeah.
She is not up there with the likes of Darkseid. She's not up there with the likes of Brainiac,
Doomsday.
like Doomsday.
Anybody like that.
Anybody
yeah.
like that. She is a C-list villain. But
Maybe
there is-
B. Maybe B.
Maybe B.
Because
She's pushing B
some
maybe a little bit.
iterations she's pretty strong, but
That's
she's
true.
definitely not somebody who's going to pose an enormous threat to Wonder Woman.
Okay, so they went with Barbara Minerva's version. Now,
Yep.
there's been
a good version.
several. It's a good version.
Yeah.
It's the right version to choose. There's
Yeah.
been 3 different women who they've used as Cheetah in the past, but this is the new 52 version of Cheetah. So I'm going to start with the older version before the new 52. So
Yeah.
Barbara Minerva. Her background is she was an heiress to a vast fortune. She was already ambitious, selfish. She was severely neurotic. She develops a huge passion for archaeology. That led her to then go to Africa, and which she discovers a tribe where they were protected by a female guardian with the powers of a cheetah.
Nice.
Now, a band of marauders kills that guardian and most of her expedition party,
Right.
and Barbara saves a tribal priest and comes to the rescue of this tribe, and then they imbue her with this new power of a cheetah. She gives her orange skin with black spots, a tail, claws, all of these different things. That's older version.
Hey, that makes sense. That has a connection to a cheetah.
Right. And it would make sense. She went to Africa.
Yeah.
She's an archaeologist.
Right.
There's connections.
Yep.
Okay. So in the new 52 version,
Similar.
so we see Barbara Minerva. We get actually where the connection is,
Right.
where she is a good friend of Wonder Woman. So she is an ally to her. She has a slightly revised backstory. She actually grows up in an all-woman commune called Amazonia and is in possession of a dagger once belonging to a lost tribe of Amazons, and she accidentally cuts herself on it, and because of that, she becomes possessed by the goddess of the hunt. Now, that transforms her into a human-cheetah hybrid.
Hey, wait, those are 2 really great backstories. Did they
Right.
use one of those?
No.
Ah, come on.
No, they
Really?
use neither of those.
Well, they got the name right.
They got the name right.
Did they get her profession right?
No, they didn't even get her profession right. So in this movie,
Yeah.
Barbara Minerva is a really recluse, quiet, shy, kind of scared and a little bit self-conscious. Super nerdy.
Super nerdy, though.
She is an American geologist, gemologist, lithologist, cryptozoologist.
Okay.
We got all of the ists.
Is she an archaeologist?
No, she's not an archaeologist.
I mean, some of those
they
cross over,
completely
but-
miss all of they hit. It's like they chose everything but an archaeologist.
Yeah, it wouldn't have hurt them just to put one more.
Yeah.
Just one more.
So she gains her cheetah powers from a wish on this gemstone called the Dreamstone in this movie. Now, there's a whole bunch of things that are wrong about this. First off, the Dreamstone. We, as a DC universe, we should have stayed away from stones as much as humanly possible. The last thing we needed to do was to do a stone that compares to any of the Infinity Stones in Marvel.
Yep.
Absolute last thing we needed to do.
They could have at least called it the Dream Gem. Which
could have done anything.
Well, I mean, that's they go. Some of the iterations in the comics call it the Dream Gem. So they could have gone that way and not the Dream Stone.
Right.
Regardless, they went a stone route and it didn't work so well.
Here's the other thing about this Dream Stone.
Yeah.
So the Dream Stone in the movie allows the person who is holding it to make one wish.
One wish. Right.
And then it has a second piece where something is taken from the person.
Right.
So it's like the monkey paw.
It's good. I like that.
Grants the wish, and something is taken from them, the thing that is most important to them.
Right. Or something of equal value. Something of equal value. I guess they did say the thing most important to you.
Yeah, they said the thing most important. So it was
the coffee
Wonder Woman lost her powers.
Right.
Cheetah lost her humanity. Her care for people.
Right. Yes, that was cool.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
What did I say? One
wish. One wish.
One.
Well, this is getting into our second point. This is the lazy story writing. Keep going to the backstory.
But this is a part of the backstory.
Oh, about them changing the
she became Cheetah
in the movie.
She became Cheetah
with a second wish.
With a second wish.
Yeah.
How? How does this make sense? This is mind-boggling. There is no story where she becomes Cheetah based off of a wish or a Dreamstone or the Dream Gem. Nothing like that.
Well, but the Dreamstone and Dream Gem in the comics anyway don't even grant wishes.
They don't.
They mess with the
reality. They alter
reality.
reality.
They're almost like the reality stone.
Right, exactly.
Stay away from stones, DC.
Stay away from stones entirely. So that's Cheetah.
Right. Yeah.
Now let's move over to Max Lord.
Max Lord. I think he's even worse.
He's even worse in how they mess him up.
Yeah.
So Max Lord in the comics is a shrewd businessman.
Yeah, he's real good at business.
He is incredibly gifted in business. His father was a businessman who was incredibly gifted in business. He was the CEO of an organization. His father actually ends up committing suicide because his business creates a carcinogenic agent that actually causes harm to people, and he couldn't live with the guilt of that.
Wow.
And that drives then Maxwell Lord the Fourth, which is the Max Lord that we see in this movie.
Right.
It drives that character to actually become more evil. Because
more driven.
driven.
I got it.
That's not what we get in this movie.
Right. Pedro Pascal is not successful.
No, not at all.
He's a con artist.
He is a con artist.
And a bad one. A
real bad con artist.
Yeah.
He's a good personality, but
I love him. He's great.
But. No, but I mean Maxwell Lord is a good personality, and that's what we find out where it ends.
Yeah, he's terrible at business.
He's terrible at business,
and he's bankrupt, has no money.
Has no money,
losing his kid.
And honestly, here's the problem.
Yeah,
he probably is so bad at business because he's so obsessed with this dream gem, with this dream stone.
Yeah.
He's wasting all his time doing that instead of actually doing the work he needs to be doing for his company.
Or he's so desperate because
he's lazy.
He's so bad at what he's done,
right?
That he turns to this in the end.
Well,
regardless, either
or
way,
he's lazy.
Yeah,
neither. But here's the thing:
not the comics.
Not in the comics.
Yeah.
He's neither of those things in the comics. He is neither desperate or lazy in the comics.
Right.
In addition to that, his father is a successful businessman in the comics. In this movie, he's an abusive husband and father that embarrasses his child, and they clearly are they have less than. It's the reason he desires more and more and more is because he had nothing growing up.
Right, yeah.
Which I don't know what Maxwell Lord we're looking at here, but that has nothing to do with the comics.
Yeah.
In the comics, he also has the gift or the power of telepathic persuasiveness.
Right. But he doesn't have that here.
He doesn't have that here either.
He doesn't have any powers.
He has no
until
powers
the
until the Dreamstone, until he becomes
a genie.
The Dreamstone, essentially a genie.
Right? He's like a genie.
He's essentially a genie.
Yeah, a genie with really bad headaches.
Right, right. So, okay, so both of the major villains in this movie have their backstories completely ripped off from them. They are shells of themselves in the comics. So if you are a Cheetah fan, if you are a Maxwell Lord fan,
who's a Maxwell Lord fan?
I don't know. I don't know, but
nobody.
But
he's just a 3-piece suit.
He is a 3-piece suit in the comics.
Well,
but
yeah, you're right. You're disappointed.
You're completely disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so what we would forgive a great many of these discrepancies if the story was well written, right?
If it was well written at
all. So
if
they changed the characters and adjusted how they interact in the world in order to play through a good storyline, a cohesive storyline, then there's a lot of forgiveness in there. We don't need the characters to be exactly piece by piece from the comics. They should be close.
No. I mean, we should have at least some similarity. We can do a better job
than
what
just
we
the
had
names.
Here.
Yeah, but again, if the story was really good,
make her an archaeologist.
Yeah,
at least make her an archaeologist.
No.
My gosh.
Yeah, or I don't know. I still understand why she became a cat. Like it, I know it
makes no sense.
She likes Diana's like animal print clothing, and she then wears animal print clothing when she becomes more confident. But then she wishes to be the best, the apex predator.
The apex predator.
Right? That doesn't mean a cheetah. It was weird that she became half human, half animal. It makes much more sense when it's like an ancient deity that creates this curse, or that comes from this magical dagger, or from the comics, where it kind of gives her that power of the hunt. That's kind of cool and has a little bit of a connection to it. But
if you think of an apex predator.
Those. Yeah.
If you think of an apex predator,
yeah,
top dog in the wild.
Yep.
I shouldn't say top dog because it's not a dog. But like, what comes to mind?
A person.
Well, I'm talking a predator in a person. You're missing my point here. All right. If it had to be an animal, if it had to be an animal, and it was the apex predator, what predator comes to mind? What is the king of the jungle?
Yeah, a lion.
It's a lion.
Yeah, a lion.
Why is she asking to be the apex predator?
And
what is this? What is this? What is this?
Well, but my point is that she should just become a really much stronger person.
Right.
Like just become a super powerful person, like a way more
and
powerful.
The thing is, she was already that. She was already the apex predator.
Right. Well, but she could have been stronger. Because here's the deal: Wonder Woman's not as strong as Superman.
Right.
So she could have been like Superman strength.
And this is a universe where Superman exists.
Right. So she could have been even stronger. Anyway, so this movie has a lot of kind of slow points and a lot of unnecessary points. There are some really cool kind of snippets, but that they don't really need to be there. So take the very beginning of the movie, which was a lot of fun, the Amazonian Olympics, really, really great, a lot of fun, really well done, had a good kind of message to it, very compelling. But if you cut that out of the movie, it really wouldn't do anything to the movie. I know they kind of tie it back to at the end where she knows truth is the only thing that matters. But you didn't. It wasn't necessarily necessary.
Well, the only other added piece, is literally that beginning storyline.
Yeah,
gets her armor.
I get. Well, they see the statue of.
They see the statue of her in gold.
Yeah, but we don't.
It gets all that it does is it makes a connection.
Yeah.
To then the stinger at the end, which is probably a stinger that we're never going to actually
No,
see
it was
anything
just to see
from.
Linda Carter.
It was
That's
just
all
to
it
see
was.
Linda Carter.
Which was fine. I don't mind Linda Carter making
Yeah,
a
but
guest
it doesn't
star,
make
but
any sense for it to be tied in. A stinger shouldn't then be tied in so deeply into the movie.
yeah, well, that lady shouldn't exist anymore. She gave
Right.
her life protecting. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute.
There's
but
no way she's alive.
Yeah, and then they opens up to the mall scene, and I know Patty Jenkins and her crew got some flack about those two scenes because they both feel like intros to a movie, and then when you put them both next to each other, it's like, well, why do we have two intros to a movie?
Don't need them both.
Right, and she fought for keeping them both. And the mall scene,
She fought wrong.
yeah, the mall scene just wasn't. I didn't like the mall scene. It was
The only thing from the mall scene
yeah.
is that there was a black market.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, but you didn't need to have Wonder Woman come in
Happening.
and do all those. Like, I thought the whip, the lasso thing, I thought that was.
They have
I-
overused
it
this
was
lasso.
terrible.
They,
It was
they,
bad.
they are losing their minds with this lasso.
Yeah, she really
both
used the
in
la-
this scene and then in the final scene. It makes no sense.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of again, the choreography in this movie I thought was really lacking, and we'll get to that more in the end battle. But like there were so many moments where those guys could just leave. Like they could just run away, and they just kind of sat there and watched
they
her.
were dumbstruck, but
Yeah,
it's like
but it's
it's
like,
like,
no, just
okay,
go.
you're shocked the first time,
Yeah,
but
just
3 or
go.
4 times that you didn't move. What
Yeah,
what are you sitting here for?
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't feel, and it also didn't feel like something that Wonder Woman would address. It's like this is just a bank robbery or a store robbery in a mall. Like Wonder Woman's Wonder Woman.
So the
Like,
first 20
I
to
don't know if she should
25
be doing
minutes
that.
of the movie
yeah,
are literally 2 intros
Yep.
that give us pretty much nothing else for the rest of the movie.
Right.
Like it doesn't tie into anything else other than the armor.
yeah. Well, anyway, so we get into that, and then the whole Dreamstone becomes the centerpiece of the movie, which is good. I think that should have been the centerpiece of the movie.
I would have liked to have known more about the Dreamstone though.
Oh
like,
yeah, she researched it a little bit.
She researches it a little bit, but she also discusses how there were, and this is a throwback to old gods and new gods.
Yes.
She talks about how there were other gods
Right.
at some other time. Doesn't go into any detail on that.
Not really.
And there were some gods who imbued different artifacts in our world for people to use.
Right.
And some of them were evil. That's the end of the story on that. That's
yeah,
it.
That's all we really get.
That's all we
Yeah.
get. There's language written in both Latin and Egyptian on this item, and
Yeah.
we don't ever get to engage with what that really means or what it says, especially the Egyptian side. And also, we have no idea who this god is. It's clearly
Right.
an old god. Let's get into that storyline a little bit more.
Well, Zack Snyder started out.
Oh my gosh.
well,
Here we
actually,
go.
who
Here we
knows?
go.
Who knows? It could have been Joss Whedon, but if
Zack
we look at
Snyder.
Justice League, and they did the same thing. They kind of just mentioned new gods, old gods, and just dismissed it. They also in this story or in this movie, they kind of mix around with what the gods' powers actually were, like with what Zeus's powers were. If they're going that route,
Oh my gosh.
they
yeah.
haven't really got. Well, we'll get there in a minute, but they haven't really outright said that her father is Zeus. But because it seems like it's the New 52, I would assume that her father is Zeus. But anyway, they sent her on the Dreamstone, and
They said her father's Zeus in the first one.
did they?
Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
You know her father's Zeus from the first
They said
one.
that in the first
yeah,
one?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, well, then that makes it worse. I'm actually,
Yeah, I know
wish
it's
it was
actually
different.
even
wish
worse.
it was a different one.
It's so bad. This
Yeah.
knowing her father is Zeus, knowing the powers of Zeus.
That's right
means,
at the end. Yeah, the end
yeah,
battle in it. That's right.
means
With Ares.
that exactly means you can't understand parts of what comes next
Right.
even more.
Right. Well, anyway, so the Dreamstone comes in and they start making wishes, and then we end up unearthing the fact that there's a monkey's paw aspect to it where when you make the wish, then something bad happens to the gravity. It's like your most precious possession is removed from you or whatever is most important to you. And so she, of course, wishes for Steve Trevor to come back, which is why we get Chris Pine returning for this movie. But what do you think about Steve Trevor just like taking over a dude's body? Like it's not like he didn't come back. He
didn't come back.
embodied
on
somebody's
his own.
body.
He
didn't even look like him. He just was some other dude.
Well, no. So this goes to the storyline of Steve Trevor has come back before. So he has been reincarnated before in the comics. And so there is literally this idea of like there was a blonde Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
And then they have the brunette Steve Trevor.
Ooh, so different.
And so they're trying to pick up on this storyline
guess.
of a brunette Steve Trevor, but it makes no sense. There's no
it's a
need
stretch.
for it. There's no need to try and play into that. Like, nobody is going to know that except for like really deep fans of Wonder Woman. And it means that also they have completely robbed the life of this man.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the bigger
This man's
thing.
life is over.
Yeah, he wasn't reincarnated. They hijacked the dude's body.
Right, and that doesn't seem to matter at all to either Steve Trevor or to Wonder Woman.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is kind of cool.
They don't care.
Yeah, well,
they're just glad to have Steve
and that's
back,
kinda
but they're not weighing at all that a man's life is over because of this wish.
right, and it seems very out of character for her. I know she's supposed to be struggling with selfishness in this, like that she needs to kind of give up her own wants and desires in order to save people. And again,
Which
that's
is
a
a
good
big part of the
message. That's
comics.
good. Yeah, I like that.
A big part of the comics is Steve is constantly trying to, for example, he proposes to her many times in the comics, and she rebuffs his proposal because she always has to choose humanity over Steve.
Right.
This doesn't make any sense with that because she's essentially choosing Steve over another human being's humanity, over another human being's life.
Yeah.
And that doesn't line up at all with Steve, who he sacrificed himself in the first movie to save people.
Right.
That is her backstory, is she sacrifices her own needs, wants, desires for humankind.
Right. Not for
And then they just don't care.
Yeah, it is. It's really odd. And the stone, the way they make the stone in the movie it's way powerful enough just to bring Steve back. Like, I mean, it creates things out of nothing. It's not like the power of the stone would just be like, why couldn't you just make Steve come back? Why did you have to hijack somebody's body? That doesn't make any sense. Unless so the stone takes away what you most desire, your greatest possession or whatever it is, or something comparable to what you wish for. And unless the stone's like monkey's paw for her was the fact that she'd have to live with taking another human's life in order to have Steve. Like, that would be a really
make sense
that would
because
be great.
that is what she actually values most in the world.
Right, and so then she'd have to give up. But
she gets a double monkey's paw.
I guess. So her actual monkey's paw is that she starts losing her powers. She starts getting weaker and weaker and slower and less able to heal quickly. And like so she starts losing her powers. That's her monkey's paw, which, again, that's a good monkey's paw too. Just pick one. So either make Steve come back, actually come back, and have her lose her powers, or have her have to grapple with the fact that I have sentenced a man to death in order to bring the one I want back.
Right, and they don't grapple with that second part at all.
Nope.
They do zero grappling.
They have
with
a fun time
life.
looking over the guy's apartment.
They're like,
look at
this
guy.
man, this is what he had, and this is what he
Yeah.
did. Well, that's all over now.
It's like, man, that's messed up.
That's really
messed up. Yeah.
Really,
That's
that's
a
really
big
evil.
knock on- Yeah.
It's really evil.
And I know they're trying to make Wonder Woman flawed, but I don't think they understood how flawed they're making her here. Like, I don't think they understood the implications
she would
of what
never
she's doing.
do this.
She'd never do that as a character. That's just weird. Anyway, all
And
right.
Steve would never do it either. Like,
Well,
that's
but he
the
didn't
other
have a
thing.
choice. I mean, what's he going to do? He's stuck.
Yeah, but
he
didn't,
can't
they didn't
unwish
even
himself.
have him processing it.
Oh yeah. Well, they kind of laid into he's a man out of time, kind of like enamored with everything around him.
Yeah.
Which I thought Chris Pine did a great job with. Thought that was fantastic. But speaking of man at a time, they end up having to rush at one point to stop Max Lord, and they jump into a plane because, well, Steve Trevor can fly planes, right? Steve Trevor can fly planes back in the early 1900s, and so they get into a 1980s plane, and there's a million buttons in there. Steve has no idea how to fly this thing.
No idea how to fly this
But guess
plane.
what? He can fly it perfectly.
And then he flies it without a problem.
Yeah.
This makes
Wonderfully.
no sense. Okay, and now, so if we can
He's
put
like, I'm a
that
natural.
that aside.
I can't.
This is the worst thing. I honestly believe this is one of the worst things of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Is they realize, radar is going to pick us up,
Right.
and we're going to be caught.
Yeah, which that's good actually. I like that
makes
idea.
sense. I mean,
Because
Steve's
Steve
reaction
has no
is
idea.
great.
I love. He's like, "What's radar?" I'm like,
He's
"Oh
like,
no."
Come on.
Yeah, right. Right, and then this actually kind of goes into the inconsistency of background that you were talking about before.
Exactly.
But Wonder Woman has a new power.
She
right?
has the power to turn objects invisible.
This was one of your all caps
And
texts.
she
to me.
says that this is a power from my father. What father?
Zeus.
Where?
Zeus can turn things invisible?
Zeus can. I've never in Greek mythology. I'm not even talking comics background.
Right. I don't think
I'm
he's
talking
ever been able to
Greek
turn things invisible.
mythology. I have never seen Zeus
I don't
able
think
to
so.
turn things invisible. I've never in my life. Never in my life. Now, the second part is it's never in anywhere in comics. It's
No,
not a part
she's
of New
not.
Gods.
Yeah.
He does not have this power.
Right.
Third thing, she all of a sudden has the ability to use this power to an effective level that she can turn her
A whole jet.
a whole jet invisible when the last thing she turned invisible was a coffee mug. Are you kidding me?
Oh, the things we do for fan service.
And then here's the thing.
yeah.
It's never brought up again.
No, she
This
doesn't
power
make
could have
anything
been
else
used
invisible.
for so many things.
Yeah, she never makes another thing invisible.
They could have
the rest of
turned
the movie.
somebody invisible to sneak up on Max Lord.
She could have turned invisible.
She could have turned invisible to go and go after Max Lord.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is a amazing power
Yeah.
that is just randomly developed and then thrown aside like it's nothing.
Yeah, if she can turn the jet invisible, she can turn herself invisible.
Absolutely.
Or like, well, this is one thing that's missing, and I know I've heard reports that the reason why is because they're trying to say that she's kind of moving towards more of a non-lethal form of saving the world, I guess. But she doesn't have her God Killer sword, like her sword anymore. But she could have turned that sword invisible and just thrown it at Max Lord. He would have never seen it
there's no
coming.
sword. There's
no
no
shield. Yeah.
There's only her gauntlets, which she barely uses.
Yeah.
The thing we were focused on the most
It's the
is this
whip.
lasso.
Yeah.
And it's like, why?
Well, it is different.
I
It's
understand
like
it's different,
unique,
but there's a
which is
lot of
okay.
things that's unique about her. Apparently, her turning things invisible is unique too.
Yeah, but that's boring to watch. You can't
That
see
is
it.
this is what I hate.
Yeah.
I hate about Superman. They just
Yeah, all the
make up
powers. Yeah, all
for
the
him.
powers.
He always has just made up powers, and now they're doing it to Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
and they're doing it
that's
that
true.
they just make up powers when she needs them.
Oh my goodness! All right, so the other biggest drop in the storytelling was pretty much the whole third act, where she's on her way to stop the now newly transformed Cheetah and Max Lord from this telecommunication.
Destroying the world.
Yeah, right. But
Really, that's what it's coming down to. The world is falling apart.
right. 'Cause
People are
everyone's making
ripping each other
wishes,
apart because of their wishes.
and the monkey's paw
is
ramifications
running rampant.
right? Yeah.
Right.
So Max Lord is in a facility that can create telecommunication across the world, and she has to go there and stop his signal.
And somehow,
Yeah.
this telecommunication is physically touching people.
Well, yeah,
The particles.
it's touching their
He's literally
ears,
like,
their
the
eardrums.
particles are touching people.
Yeah, it's kind of. Well, but you know what? I could get over that if the rest of it didn't happen. Like if
Oh,
the
there's
rest of
so
the-
much. I
so
mean,
could
like,
get
but that's
over
just
that part if
that's
the rest
the
yeah.
tip
So
of the iceberg.
So she gets there, and as we all know, even if you love the stories in comic book movies and the character development in comic book movies, and they should be there, one of the biggest things we always go for is the fights. We
Right.
love to see a
there
throwdown
has to
between
be
a
a
supervillain
climatic
and a superhero.
ending.
Yeah, and so here she comes against Cheetah. This is going to be awesome. She's wearing
Right.
her Kingdom Come armor, which is
why
a super waste because Kingdom Come
throwaway of Kingdom Come armor?
yeah, that's for like Superman and Shazam and Magog and like anybody else from the Kingdom Come run. They were all way more powerful than Cheetah. But she puts it on for Cheetah, and she comes to fight. And at least I was like, you know what? All right, I can somewhat ignore that if it's going to be a really good fight, right?
This was a throwaway of the armor.
Whoever
and
choreographed this fight.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness. Like so here was the majority of the fight. She was either covering herself with the wings while Cheetah slashed at
which
her.
was unnecessary.
Right. Which it wasn't in this Kingdom Come armor because Cheetah could tear the wings apart.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous. She could
So
shouldn't be able
Cheetah
to do
is
that.
not strong enough to destroy the Kingdom Come
No
armor.
way.
Number one. Number two, Wonder Woman didn't need the wings to protect her because as soon as she threw the,
dropped the
wings
wings,
off of her,
she was fine.
She destroyed Cheetah.
They were too heavy for her, I guess.
Like they were actually, and it didn't tire Cheetah out. It didn't play into any of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, so anyway, it's super. If you don't know, it's super boring just to watch somebody smash into a shield over and over and over and over again. She then throws her whip, and like they just swing around. Like I felt like it was one of those carnival rides where you're like the swing set carnival rides. Where you're swinging around in circles.
Yeah.
They just and it's super CG. Again, DC does have an issue with using too much CG. This movie did a pretty good job with not too much CG. But then they crammed it all into this end fight where it was
I still think there was I always think there's too much CG.
I know.
Because,
well, practical
like
better.
Yeah, I mean like the Dark Knight series is like the best example of that.
Yeah. Or the Mandalorian.
Or the Mandalorian. That was a good one.
So
good example too. I mean they use the CG for the things that make sense to use the CG for.
Exactly.
Like but they then threw all the CG into this swinging.
It's just swinging though. There wasn't any
lasso fight that is not a fight.
Yeah, we've talked about this before that when we see an MCU movie, you feel every punch. Like every punch is purposeful. Yeah. Every kick is made to tell a story, and a good fight choreographer does that, where every move is made to tell a story about the two fighters. And this was it was lazy. It didn't feel like anything I really cared about. And then it ended with him just arguing with her about let go, or I'm going to electrocute you in the water.
Yeah.
And then she electrocutes her, and then it's done. And then she goes into.
And she doesn't even die from the electrocution.
I thought she was going to die.
I thought she was going to die, and I was going to.
Well, she gets down and she goes to fight Max Lord, and
my gosh, this is ridiculous.
She cuts down. So whoever was in the writing room at this point and was like, all right, how are we gonna wrap this up with Max Lord?
Because Max Lord is nothing.
He's not a super person.
He's not. He can't stand toe to toe with Wonder Woman.
Right, unless he got her to wish that she would lose.
Right.
That would be the only way. So he's talking to all the telecommunication cameras and everything, and she cuts all that down so that he can't have communication with.
It's immediately what she does. There's nothing that he has connecting him to the world anymore.
Right, but I guess. I mean, I'd like to think I know how some kind of communication works, but there's a bright blue beam kind of coming through the ceiling where it's supposed to, I guess, be going up to the satellites, and he just stands in that light and he talks, and he's somehow, transported to everyone in the world. One thing goes wrong, or isn't plugged in correctly, and you're not going to get what you need.
This is a top secret
satellite
network that takes over every screen in the world, and we're supposed to believe that when all of the video was destroyed, he could just stand in a beam of light and have it be projected.
I guess
that is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
You know what's more ridiculous?
Yeah,
when Wonder Woman can't get to him, and repeatedly tries to use the lasso to get him.
Yeah,
in this beam of light, which again I don't know why. The wind is preventing her from being able to reach him in any way, shape, or form. There's no reason for it.
I wonder if it was the power of the stone.
Maybe. Okay, let's
maybe
I'll have a stretch there.
Yeah,
let's take that.
But they didn't set it up at all.
She somehow then gets the lasso around his ankle.
Without him knowing.
Yeah. And through the lasso.
Yeah.
Is able to project her voice. The lasso is not a microphone.
Well, maybe.
The lasso just connects to him,
and
she is essentially whispering.
She whispers it to the world.
She's not screaming so that the beam of light can hear her. She's essentially plugging the lasso in to him and talking through him, which makes no sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't work. Here's the thing: is even if you don't like the choices that they made in the movie. They still have to play by the rules that they set up. And so any good story, you set up rules.
Exactly right.
And you have to play by them.
Exactly right.
And so they set up a whole bunch of rules like only one wish. Then they have two.
Some of the movies that you and I hate the most are the ones who set up irrational rules.
Or just break their own for no reason.
Well, no, but that's my point is they set up irrational rules and then they break their own rules.
Yeah.
That is exactly what this did.
Yeah.
2 wishes when you're only allowed 1.
Yep.
just basic technological breakdowns that make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, or that like he can touch the world with the with his communication, like through the particles and the like. Just because somebody said that when you use this transmission device, it reaches the world, touches the world. Like, that's a figure of speech.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it actually reaches out and touches them, so it won't work to do their wishes. You have to be in physical contact. That's the rule you set up.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, but this is where, like, we're having to make all these ideas and jumps.
Right.
Like, we shouldn't have to be making all of these assumptions or inferences especially in the climax.
Yeah.
Like, in the climax, all these things should have been explained, and all of them now should be coming together.
Yeah.
Not, like, what is actually going on?
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And then it ends with her talking down the villain to...
I can't.
Now, I don't mind her talking down Max Lord. I don't mind that. I don't mind her talking down... I don't mind that. What I mind is that she then talked down the entire world. Like, the entire world stopped being selfish for her. Like,
everyone
the
in that
entire
moment.
world stopped being selfish. Like, we've gotten to know Max Lord. We know his background. We know he's not really like an evil dude. He's got like a lot of messed up things behind him and everything like that. But you're getting the entire world to just give up being selfish, and that's how it ends. Like, that's how you stop everything, and it all goes back to normal.
I can't even get him.
You can't get past Max Lord.
Max Lord being talked down. I mean, his entire flashback, everything we learn about him, is shown in that final moment.
Yeah.
Like, in that final moment, it shows all of the pain, all of the angst, all of the hurt, and what causes him to act the way he does, what causes him to estrange his own son, which he was estranging before he even got this power.
Got the powers,
So, no, I don't think we all of a sudden believe he's not selfish. That doesn't make any sense to me. It just we're supposed to believe that her goodwill essentially trumps all.
Yeah.
And
I think it was supposed to be that feel-good feeling at the end, but I think it just fell flat.
It fell flat.
It fell flat, I thought.
I didn't feel good.
Yeah, I don't mind. Like, I don't mind
wish wasn't
feel-goody
fulfilled.
things, but yeah. Well, it ended.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what?
So then your wish was fulfilled, I guess.
Well, no, my wish would be now that I hadn't watched
that you hadn't watched it. What's the monkey's
Actually,
paw
no,
for that?
my wish would have been that I hadn't watched the 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special. That would have been my wish.
We're never getting that back.
No, we're never getting that 90 minutes back.
Let's jump into our verdict and see what we could have done, what they could have done, to make this film a little bit better and maybe a little truer to what we believe Wonder Woman should have been.
Yeah, so I think that this was a DC movie that fell into the same pitfalls that any DC movie that we've reviewed up to this point has.
Yep.
We see the issue being poor character development. We see the issue being a majorly disjointed storyline where the script is actually falling flat on audiences' expectations or on the emotions of what it's actually supposed to develop in the audience.
Yeah.
And we are just drawn in by either cliches or some flashy things like our Kingdom Come armor.
Yeah.
Which was super cool. This idea of Steve Trevor coming back, which people were excited about, but they're just flashy. They're only small things that actually don't work as a part of a larger cohesive storyline, and that's where everything falls flat. You got great actors, but you just underutilize them. What could have been done differently is actually do anything with source material for characters. We've said this time and time again. DC just isn't using their source material in comics. And I don't know why to this point. I honestly don't. Don't call it a DC movie if you're not doing anything from the comics in DC. Just call it a separate movie. Make a different movie.
Yeah, make it your own movie.
Make your own movie, which is essentially what Patty Jenkins did. She made her own movie, but it didn't need to be a Wonder Woman movie. It didn't need to be Cheetah, and it actually wasn't. So we need to see movies from DC actually start using source material.
Yes, please.
That is the number one thing that I can say that will actually correct this movie or most DC movies at this point. It is the exact same problem that we see happening over and over again.
Yeah, don't fall back on flashy fan service that actually ends up just disappointing fans.
Right, exactly. We're not going to be distracted from the poor storyline because of the shiny object.
All right, Legion fans, thank you for tuning in to our first current comic correction here with Wonder Woman 1984. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications so you know when the next episode comes out. We are always here every Monday with a few episodes occasionally throughout the week, so always be checking back. Have that bell activated so that you know when the new content comes up.
Also, if you like what you're hearing and you would love to hear more, check us out on Patreon. Our link is in our description. Check us out there for more exclusive content and videos and podcasts and a whole bunch of different other things that we just love to talk about with comics. So make sure that you're tuning in. Same time, same place, same Legion.
Catch you guys next time.